Hello, I'm Robin Probsting, Senior Planner with the City of Mercer Island's Development Services Group. Thank you for your interest in Mercer Island's 2018 to 2019 Critical Areas Ordinance Update. In this short video, we aim to address the following topics. Why is the city doing this update? What are critical areas in our city and why should we protect them? What is the update process? And how can you get involved? The City of Mercer Island sees your input as a valuable tool to implementing a successful code update. So let's get started. Why are we doing this update? The state requires that cities' critical areas and shoreline codes be updated every few years. CAO stands for Critical Areas Ordinance. These are the primary development standards that the city uses to protect natural resources and hazard areas across the city. The city's last CAO update was in 2005. SMP stands for Shoreline Master Program, a special set of development standards that apply to all areas within 200 feet of the Lake Washington shoreline. The SMP underwent a comprehensive update in 2013. The city is required to adopt updated CAO and SMP provisions by June 2019. Review and updates will ensure that the CAO and SMP are current with changes in laws and are responsive to changed circumstances and new information. What are critical areas? The City of Mercer Island regulates these 5 critical areas within the CAO. These areas are essential to preserving our natural environment and protecting the public's health and safety. Critical areas, like this conceptual stream, occur in parks and backyards across the island. The city protects critical areas through requiring buffers or setbacks around them, limiting certain activities within them, and requiring mitigation for project impacts, like enhancing the buffer with native vegetation. Applicants must first consider avoiding or minimizing impacts before doing any other type of mitigation. Note that these protections only apply to new development activities, not to existing improvements like your home, driveway, and yard. Let's take a closer look at each of the 5 critical area types on Mercer Island. Wetlands are areas that are frequently saturated by water and support vegetation adapted to wet conditions. They are important because they provide flood control by retaining storm runoff, water quality functions by filtering and removing pollutants, and habitat functions such as refuge for local fish, birds, and other animals. In Mercer Island, you can find wetlands like Ellis Pond, hillside seeps, and areas along the Lake Washington shoreline, such as the northwest portion of Luther Burbank Park. Wetland buffer widths vary to provide greater protection for more important wetlands. Generally, buffers must remain vegetated, but the city does provide some allowances to accommodate new development and infrastructure. Watercourses, or streams, are formed by nature and generally consist of a channel with a stream bed and banks. Watercourses are important because they provide fish and aquatic habitat and convey surface waters. In Mercer Island, we have numerous small watercourses that drain through forested ravines and neighborhoods down to the lake shoreline. Similar to wetlands, the city applies buffers to protect watercourses with the greatest ecological value. The city also requires a narrow setback around piped watercourses in order to accommodate potential future daylighting and restoration. Fish and wildlife habitat conservation areas are specific habitat types for wildlife species designated as priority by state agencies or by the city due to local importance. These areas are necessary for maintaining species by providing suitable habitats. The City of Mercer Island currently only designates bald eagle habitat as a habitat conservation area with managed zones around active nests based on guidance from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. State guidelines also identify watercourses in the Lake Washington shoreline as fish and wildlife habitat conservation areas. By completing updates to both the CAO and SMP concurrently, the city is ensuring effective and integrated management of important shoreline habitats while still maintaining reasonable allowances for property owners. There are 3 types of geologically hazardous areas on Mercer Island. These areas are susceptible to erosion, sliding, earthquake, or other geological events based on a combination of slope, soils, geologic material, hydrology, and vegetation. The importance of regulating these areas is on minimizing risk to human health and safety, as well as minimizing the risk to other critical areas. Setbacks, specially designed foundations, and seasonal construction restrictions are common approaches to minimize risk for existing structures and development adjacent to these areas. Critical Aquifer Recharge Areas, or CARAs, are areas that have a critical recharging effect on groundwater used for our water supply and are vulnerable to groundwater contamination. Regulating CARAs is important for maintaining groundwater supplies for the city's existing emergency well as well as private wells. What is the update process? The first step is to review current science and technical information as well as state agency guidance to identify gaps within the existing code. These gaps and inconsistencies with the best available science will mold the recommendations for updates to the CAO. City staff, with the help from consultants, environmental science associates, and Aspect Consulting, will draft revisions to the code to reflect the review of current information and guidance. The Planning Commission will review the proposed updates, focus on major changes to ensure protections are appropriate and consistent with city policy, and hold a public hearing. City Council will take public input into account, make any necessary revisions, and adopt the revised code. We want to hear from all citizens and stakeholders, including property owners and business owners, about their concerns, questions, and priorities. We need you to help us create successful environmental standards, ensuring responsible management of Mercer Island's critical areas and Lake Washington shoreline into the future. The public is invited to the Planning Commission and the City Council public meetings, which will be posted on the city's CAO and SMP update website. Additional ways to stay informed and get involved include visiting Let's Talk Mercer Island and providing comments by email. We look forward to hearing from you and thank you for your participation.